From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 6, ICE protests ramp up across the country, including the Bay Area. What demonstrators are demanding after an ICE agent kills a woman in Minneapolis this week.
Plus, criticism of Chevron's operations in Venezuela today at a refinery in Richmond. Why the president's meeting with oil executives last night has some people here in the Bay Area concerned.
And Grateful Dead co-founder Bob Weir dies today at the age of 78. A look at the accomplishments and the legacy that the legendary guitarist leaves behind. Live from the CBS studios in San Francisco, I'm Brian Hackney.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. A day of protests across the country and the Bay Area, days after an ICE officer was shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis.
The death of Renee Good has sparked outrage, as you know, nationwide. Minneapolis remains on edge tonight, and new details in the investigation continue to pour in.
An ICE Out of Minnesota rally was held today close to where Good was shot and killed. Thousands of people marched through the streets there. Usher Karazi has the details.
Her name! Say her name!
Throughout the nation, protesters continue to speak out against the death of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. An ICE agent shot and killed Good as she drove her SUV on an icy Minneapolis street Wednesday morning.
This is very, very wrong, and we want them to stop.
I think they're going to start shooting into crowds to discourage people from protesting. I wouldn't put anything past them.
Friday, CBS News obtained cell phone video from the ICE agent's point of view. Good's wife is also seen outside the SUV filming the encounter. The agent approaches the SUV and circles around to the driver's side. Another agent tells Good to get out. She drives, then shots ring out. The Trump administration maintains the ICE agent acted in self-defense.
And we will always be protecting ICE, and we're always going to be protecting our Border Patrol and our law enforcement.
Democratic lawmakers are, in their words, working to bring the temperature down. Saturday, 3 Minnesota representatives attempted to visit a regional ICE headquarters, but were asked to leave.
These agents do not know how to police, and, ICE officials, they don't know how to obey the law in any way or fashion. This morning proved that they will not allow us to do our duties as members of Congress.
On Saturday, Minneapolis's mayor praised those who continue to protest peacefully.
We are a safe city. We will not counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own brand of chaos here. We in Minneapolis are going to do this right.
Friday night saw some arrests, and he implored demonstrators to remain peaceful.
People across the Bay Area also held protests today. They were out in the streets of Concord holding signs, and San Francisco's Ocean Beach had demonstrators holding hands as a symbol of peace. Don Lynn has details on other ICE protests here in the city.
The protesters are extremely peaceful, but they are very, very loud. And that's the point. They're fed up and they want to be heard.
What's her name? Renee Good! What's her name? Renee Good!
Protesters say this is what democracy looks like. Expressive, deafening, and passionate. Hundreds of people gathered on sidewalks and the center median near Van Ness Avenue and O'Farrell Street.
It feels good to be out here.
Dan Hogan of Foster City and his 2 kids joined the rally on Saturday afternoon to protest the killing of Renee Good. While it's a tough topic for an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, Dan believes it's an invaluable lesson outside of the classroom for his kids.
Historically, this is how things change, is through the direct action of sometimes not that many people, but a growing number of people who stand up against what's wrong.
To see that people actually care of what's happening in this country, and it has to be safe for everybody, not just us.
The demonstrators say their tax dollars should not be used to hurt or kill innocent people. They don't buy the self-defense claim. They believe the ICE agent murdered Renee Good.
It was murder. She was driving away. She was trying to get away. He shot her in the face.
Is a woman, a mother. She was just in her car, and cold-blooded murder.
They feel like they could just shoot us, and that's not the America that I know.
Protesters blame President Trump, saying his administration creates division and enables violence toward good people. They say they hope this is a turning point for democracy and decency.
The more of us do that, the more the people who enable Trump, feel a little weaker, not so sure. Should I follow those orders? Is that right? Is that wrong? I think that if we all stand together, it shows that the true principle here is on our side, and that I think it weakens his defenders and enablers.
Despite the challenges this country faces, Dan and his kids say they're still optimistic about what the future holds.
There will be more pushback, and it'll lead to some actual systemic change.
I think it needs to change, and it has to change quickly before it gets too late and it's too big.
So where do they hope to go from here? Organizers certainly hope this is not a flash in the pan. Protesters say they want this anger and frustration to lead to a much larger uprising and sustained change. More protests are planned for next weekend.
We'll have continuing coverage of the investigation into the ICE shooting and its impacts here at home. Stay with us on the air and streaming on the free CBS News app. Andrea?
Well, there was also unrest over U.S. intervention in Venezuela today. It's now more than a week after the U.S. captured former President Nicolas Maduro. Since then, the Trump administration has made it clear it intends to prioritize oil extraction under the new regime. Right now, Chevron is the only U.S. firm operating in the country, but already Exxon is reported to be studying a return to Venezuela. Chevron, which used to be headquartered in San Ramon, is already planning a big production bump. Back here in the Bay Area, protesters were in Richmond today at the Chevron refinery, demanding the company put an end to what they call war profiteering. John Ramos has more.
Chevron has a long history in the Bay Area. Its Richmond refinery is more than 100 years old, and until recently, its global headquarters was right here in San Ramon. But the company also has a history in Venezuela, and some are questioning how that may be changing in the future.
No wars for oil! No wars for oil! No.
Protesters gathered outside Chevron's Richmond refinery, but the company kept its name out of it by covering up all of its signs. The group, many who oppose Chevron's presence for environmental reasons, was drawn to the site by last week's takeover of Venezuela and capturing of its president, Nicolas Maduro.
The Trump administration did let people know before the bombs dropped, but it wasn't Congress that he let know. It was the oil companies.
Originally, President Trump said the military buildup in the southern hemisphere was to combat Venezuelan drug dealers.
But he has, now that this has happened, really changed the tune to say the truth, which is that a lot of it is so that we can extract some of the largest oil reserves in the world.
There isn't much doubt that that is important to the oil companies, many who met with President Trump on Friday.
It's in the best interest of these companies and, frankly, society as a whole for the industry to be interested in understanding what the opportunity here represents.
Venezuela sits on the largest known oil reserves in the world, but the entire industry was taken over by the government in 1976. The country enjoyed a huge jump in prosperity, and foreign investment was welcomed in the 1990s. But eventually, the single-focused economy soured, leading to poverty and civil unrest and the rise of populist Hugo Chavez. His corrupt and incompetent regime seized the foreign assets in 2007, causing ExxonMobil and Conoco to pull out of the country. But Chevron stayed, exporting just a tiny bit of oil to U.S. refineries, which are able to process the extremely dirty and heavy crude oil. Now that Chavez's successor, Maduro, has been ousted, Chevron sits in an advantageous position as the only American oil company in the country.
And thank you for continuing to keep American energy domination in the forefront. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
But it may take some time and a lot of money to do that. The Venezuelan oil infrastructure is in such bad condition that it would cost billions of dollars to make it productive again. But back in Richmond, Eric Swabeck was pretty sure the oil companies, including Chevron, will get plenty of assistance from the Trump administration.
We can see that Trump believes in, drill baby drill is his slogan. So controlling the world's oil reserves seems to be very important to him and the people that probably have been pushing his buttons.
Add to the intrigue the fact that China is the main customer of Venezuelan oil and Russia shares an oil transport system, and you have the makings of an explosive political situation.
Meanwhile, back in the Bay Area, San Francisco music legend Bob Weir has died at the age of 78. He was one of the founding members of the Grateful Dead and co-wrote some of the band's most famous hits, including Sugar Magnolia and Truckin'. Weir's family announced that Weir died because of underlying lung issues, despite beating cancer. The family says the diagnosis happened just weeks before the group's three-night 60th anniversary celebration at Golden Gate Park in August. Family says that he died surrounded by loved ones earlier today. And still ahead here at 6, remembering the life and legacy of a legendary football coach in Oakland. The tributes pouring in for John Beam.
And coming up in the First Alert forecast, you no doubt have already noticed it's kind of cold in the mornings right now. We have a few more to go, so we'll talk about tomorrow's cold weather advisory again. We'll put some numbers on each part of the bay, and then we're going to look ahead to next week, see how things are going to play out. They're actually, some of us might be near 70 degrees for daytime highs next week. We'll look at that coming up.
In Oakland, family and friends of legendary football coach John Beam gathered today for a celebration of his life at the Henry J. Kaiser Center. We have heard from many of his friends and players, but today his cherished two daughters spoke out about what legendary Coach Beam meant to them, and that's Dad.
Your black coach, white coach, brown coach, purple coach, you say you're going to be there for them. Will you actually be there?
Coach John Beam is known for having a very large extended family, but at home, he was surrounded by the love of three very special women in his life, his wife Cindy and his two daughters, Sonia and Monica.
I was born in the middle of football season, and if you ask my dad, that was no coincidence. He always said it was perfect timing, early enough in the morning, so he could be there with my mom, hold me, and then still make it back up the hill to Skyline in time for practice.
Through the pain and tears, they shared fond memories of the man they called Dad.
My dad called me his mini-me. We're a lot alike. But one of the greatest gifts I got from him was a desire to constantly learn and be curious. Even in his 60s, he was still learning and evolving.
Most everyone here knew my dad as Coach Beam. But there was another side of him, softer, sweeter, and somehow even more profound. The version of him who was Bappa to my two girls. And this was his absolute favorite title.
Many of his closest friends also spoke at the memorial, each of them thanking his family.
He was loved by thousands, and he reciprocated. He loved all those thousands back. But he didn't love none of us like that Cindy, Monica, and Sonia, okay? And they shared him with us, and that was big time.
Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee and Congresswoman Latifah Simon also talked about what Coach Beam meant to his community, especially the many players and students he impacted over the years.
Cindy, Monica, and Sonia, I love Coach. One of the greatest lessons that he left me with was the example of how he fiercely loved his girls. And so I want to love and lift up my own two daughters in that same way, the same way that John loved you all.
We from the town, make some noise in this thing. Yeah. You were so much more than a football coach. You were my hero, my mentor, and the most important person in my life. You believed in me before I believed in myself. And that belief changed who I am.
His daughters say while he passionately loved them all, his grandchildren held a very special place in his heart. His tragic death took away valuable time with his grandkids, but what Coach Beam stood for will be shared for generations to come.
Legacy isn't measured by trophies or titles. It's measured by who you show up for, who you believe in, who you protect, uplift, and love again and again. My dad showed up everywhere, for everyone, all the time.
Okay, let's switch gears and get you ready for tomorrow's cold weather once again. The map is colored. We've got cold weather advisories. Santa Clara Valley's included in it. Tri-Valley's got it. You see the light blue that shows up here. And of course, the North Bay valleys have it as well. We put the temperatures in. I'll show you the contours in a second. But if you look at the numbers, the areas that are in blue, these are the places where the temperatures dip down into the 30s. Come over here to the inland valleys, and you can see why Livermore and Concord are going to do it. And North Bay valleys will do it tomorrow as well. And of course, the old-fashioned color contours also helps visualize those deep blues, those interior valleys where the cold air settles in, sinks down, and then gets trapped in the low spots. That's why it's so cold for us. Look at the Central Valley. They're even colder. And then look at the coast. Bright green band going down. It will be in the upper 40s for a morning low in Santa Cruz, as much as 10 degrees warmer there. In fact, more like 15 degrees warmer there than it will be in some of the interior valleys. It's like a reversal of the summer microclimates that we think about, where you are as much as 30 degrees cooler on the coast. But it's a total reversal of fortunes in the winter when we get into these inversions like this. All right, let's take a look at tomorrow's daytime high, because it's going to be nice. The daytime highs are not really affected like the morning lows. Daytime highs are pretty much average. And in fact, you're going to see in the 7-day forecast, there is a warm-up coming next week. So the numbers that are on here now that are in the 60s are going to be approaching 70 by the time we get to like Thursday and Friday. So we got a few days to get there. But that is coming, a warm-up to get us to near 70 for daytime highs. Not bad. All right, the other thing to keep an eye out on here when we take a look at what's going on with the overall pattern, wind streams on the map right now. And if you take a look right here through the Golden Gate, what you see is an offshore wind. Look at the streamlines that are going off. They're going out the Pacific. Relatively dry air. Maybe you've noticed that. But what this also does is when you've got this offshore, it's pulling in things from the Central Valley, and there's a lot of Tule fog that's developing out there now. We've got to look at that in a slightly more nuanced way. Let's pull up. First of all, here's the wind. You see the wind streams taking everything offshore for the next couple of days. But back this way through the Central Valley, we orient ourselves again. Each morning now, when the high clouds clear out, you're going to see a little gap right there. That's Tule fog under it. High clouds up here passing overhead. But that's one of the more impressive redevelopments of Tule fog for the Central Valley that we've seen in a couple weeks. And now, when we look ahead to Monday, the higher clouds go away, and you can see the Tule fog developing again down there. Some of it's trying to get over here into the bay. I don't think it's going to be overwhelming. I don't think we're going to get a big inundation of Tule fog like we did back in early December. But look, there are patches coming in through the Carquinez and developing here on its own as well. So it does have shades, memories of what we were going through when we were stuck with that pattern for so much of early December. I think the main thing is we're not getting rain. Big center of high pressure set up over us, turns off the storm track. The air gets stagnant. The Tule fog starts to develop and kind of have its way with things, and that's where we'll be. If you look at the daytime highs for the Bay, those are the numbers that go to the mid-60s. Let me show you the numbers that are going to go warmer than that. Inland valleys for daytime highs should be pretty nice. You'll see those numbers are also starting to warm up into the low 60s. And when we look at the coast, here's what's interesting. I said some daytime highs will be able to approach 70. It's going to be at the beaches. Again, the notably warmest microclimate under this pattern is the beach and the coast, which is totally the opposite of what we think of with our microclimates.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
And welcome back. Protests in Iran intensify as they reach the 2-week mark. Demonstrators again are angry over Iran's declining economy.
Iran's army is now threatening to join the crackdown on protesters as demonstrations against the regime grow. Haley Ott has the details.
Good evening. Demonstrations against the Islamic Republic appear to be growing despite a nationwide internet blackout and a new warning that protesters could face charges that carry the death penalty.
Thousands filling the streets. Human rights groups say at least 65 people have been killed and 2,300 detained in demonstrations that began in Tehran almost 2 weeks ago, sweeping across the country in response to Iran's crashing currency and struggling economy. Iran's leaders shut the internet down on Thursday, sparking fears of a crackdown.
You better not start shooting.
Despite threats from President Trump. Maziar Bahari is the editor of the independent news site Iran Wire.
The president has said that if any protesters are killed, there will be an American response. How seriously do you think the regime is taking that?
It has inspired many protesters to come out because they know that the leader of the world's main superpower is supporting their cause.
America has already lost the game.
Iranian state media showed only pro-government demonstrations, claiming wider unrest had been limited. But the few social media videos that have made it through the internet blockade tell a different story of huge crowds chanting death to the dictator and government buildings on fire.
Is this a tipping point?
Many people have called what is happening in Iran right now a revolution, but a revolution usually needs a leader for the revolution, but we do not have that leader at the moment.
One man who could become that leader, US-based Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the ousted Shah, has been encouraging protesters to go further, to seize and hold city centers.
Amid concerns over a potential government crackdown, there are reports of at least 2 hospitals in Tehran being inundated with patients. State media, meanwhile, has called the protesters terrorists. And Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, made a public address yesterday saying Iranians were ruining their own streets to please the President of the United States. Haley Ott, CBS News, London.
As tensions continue to escalate between protesters in Iran and its regime, a demonstration against the country's supreme leader broke out today at UC Berkeley.
What do we want? Democracy for Iran! What do we want? Democracy for Iran!
It comes as regime-backed forces in Iran have killed dozens of people and arrested thousands more, according to human rights groups. Demonstrators shared with us their demands.
I want to be their voice. I want everyone in every part of this world to know what they want, because their voice is being shut down. In Iran, they're being killed daily, nightly, they're being tortured. That's why I'm here.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration has said it will intervene if protesters continue to be harmed.
Now is University of San Francisco professor Stephen Zunes, founder of the school's Middle Eastern Studies program and its current director. Professor, thank you for being here. How close are we to actually intervening in Iran?
Not very close, I don't think, because there's not really much you can do to support a uprising like that in progress. I mean, we could bomb a few buildings, government buildings and the like, but if anything, that might actually strengthen the regime, because people tend to rally around the flag if they're being attacked, and it would just feed the regime's false narrative that this popular uprising is some kind of foreign conspiracy led by the United States. So but with Trump, of course, you never can tell. But I don't think his advisors, certainly, particularly in the military, believe that a direct intervention, would help the situation at all.
Do you think that Israel might be using this as an opportunity?
I mean, certainly, Israel has been, sees Iran and the current leadership as, a very hostile power. At the same time, it's been very convenient for them in certain ways to justify certain controversial policies. And a democratic Iran, well, not as extremely hostile to Israel as the current one, would still be supportive of the Palestinian cause and would not necessarily become an ally.
One of your specialties is conflict resolution there at the University of San Francisco. How do you see this conflict resolving itself?
It's very hard to see at this point. I mean, I followed the situation in Iran for many years, and for a long time, people felt, okay, we could try to reform the country within the system. But at this point, the corruption is so endemic. So many people, particularly young people, are alienated that they really want to indeed bring down the regime. Unfortunately, unlike some governments where it's kind of one-man rule, like Mubarak in Egypt, Ben Ali in Tunisia, Milosevic in Serbia, where these popular uprisings can get a broad coalition to bring down the government. Iran's authoritarian system is very complex, a lot of overlapping centers of authority. And since they came to power in a similar popular revolution against the Shah, another autocrat, they actually know something about how to keep these uprisings down by a combination of brutal force and other means. But ultimately, though, a government is only as powerful as people's willingness to obey them. And even though I don't think we're close to bringing down the regime, I think its demise is inevitable.
Well, I was surprised to see that there is even the suggestion of the return of the descendant of the Shah. Do you think that's at all realistic?
I don't think so. I mean, certainly there's some Iranians who have a nostalgia for the royalist period, just like there's some Russians who have a nostalgia for the Soviet period. But I don't think they're the majority. Last time I was in Iran, obviously there's very strong opposition to the mullahs, but I saw very little support for a returning of the Shah. And again, his father was a tyrant. And I think there's too many bad memories of that era to bring much support for returning the Shah's son. I mean, they do not want theocracy or monarchy. They want democracy.
Well, they had that with Mossadegh once upon a time, but that's going back to 1953.
Yes, and unfortunately, we're through that regime, and then we see what's happened.
Exactly, and then now we find ourselves where we do today. USF Professor Stephen Zunes. Stephen, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And still ahead, the Mount Hamilton Observatory takes a licking as astronomers scramble to protect its historic telescope. That's coming up next.
Now you can get your KPIX news, weather, and live stream all in one place on the CBS News app. Download it free today.
Where did technology in Silicon Valley begin? You might think semiconductors, Fairchild, stuff like that. No. It goes back to the 19th century. And this location, first bit of major technology in the Bay Area up on Mount Hamilton. Now major repairs are underway at one of the Bay Area's coolest scientific hubs. You might remember that stormy Christmas weather ripped off a piece of the dome at Lick Observatory. And we had an inside look at the repairs and how the observatory team is able to protect the rest of the dome from more downpours. Watch. When the Bay Area woke up on a stormy Christmas morning, astronomers woke up to this. 116-mile-an-hour wind gust at Lick Observatory ripped off a 5-ton chunk of the dome.
And I was just, I was dumbfounded.
Engineers were left scrambling to pick up the 10,000-pound pieces outside, and inside, scrambled to protect one of the Bay Area's scientific jewels from the unrelenting rain.
I am Eleanor Gates, and I am one of the resident astronomers here at Lick Observatory, and we are going up to take a look at the damage and the repair work.
The domes atop the observatory are supposed to look like this. The shutter doors protecting the priceless telescopes inside. But one door is now lying in the parking lot.
So this is the dome for the 36-inch refractor, and this here is the dome shutter door that was blown off the dome during the storm on Christmas morning. It really took quite a bit of damage.
So did the roof when 10,000 pounds of shutter landed on it, snapping the ceiling joists inside.
The telescope, thank goodness, did not suffer any damage. This is another place.
So it's obviously a big, unusual, and expensive repair job. As for how long it's going to take, well,
we don't actually know how long it's going to take to fix. A hard hat for you.
So how are they going to protect that telescope?
So the actual damage is at the south end of the building where the 36-inch telescope dome is.
Do you remember the first time you showed me this telescope?
Oh gosh, that was so long ago.
2007, actually, when Eleanor first showed us this historic scope.
How much does this weigh?
On the order of 14 tons.
But it is so delicately balanced.
It is delicately balanced, and so you just move it.
But it works.
It definitely works. The pinnacle of technology for the 1880s.
It's a precious piece of historic equipment.
So we're headed up to the mezzanine level so that you get a really good look at the telescope and what we've done to protect the telescope from the weather.
You put a huge tarp on it.
An enormous tarp. Unfortunately, the dome is still open to the elements. We had contractors come in that specialize in mitigating water damage, and they built this enormous tent to catch the water coming through the slit. So if it started to rain right now, we would have to rely on this tarp.
So far, it's done the job in the pouring rain.
So this is the biggest telescope on Mount Hamilton.
And the rest of the observatory complex is at least unscathed.
It could have been a whole lot worse. We have been continuing our research as normal. So that at least is the good news of this whole situation. We're hoping that within the next 4 to 6 days that we can get this closed up and protected so that we can now focus on the longer term plan of the actual repair.
And it's complicated and it's expensive. So Lick Observatory is asking for help funding these repairs. Maybe Google will step up. You can donate on the Lick Observatory website. Andrea?
Well, wineries in Lodi are inviting people to break their usual routine and explore different local wines they may have not tried before. It's all part of a month-long campaign called Try January. It's a play on the more commonly known Dry January, where people take a month off from drinking. Instead, local Lodi wineries are offering what they call a fun alternative to lean into your curiosities.
I think that's what's exciting, is there's so many different things, right? Even if every winery in Lodi has a cab and a chard, we're all going to make them different. So maybe you think you don't like Chardonnay. Well, maybe you just hadn't had this person's style or that person's style. So I think we should reframe it, look at it as exploration and something exciting and fun to do.
If any wine lovers are still fully committed to Dry January, tasting rooms throughout Lodi still offer plenty of non-alcoholic options such as mocktails, ciders, and reduced wines. While the award season is in full swing, we take a behind-the-scenes look at preparations for tomorrow's Golden Globes. Darren?
Well, in the First Alert forecast, we're going to look back at the jigsaw puzzle we have been for the last several days. Who's got a cold weather advisory and who doesn't? We'll break it down with numbers so you can see just how cold your part of the bay will be tomorrow. And then after we do that, we're going to look ahead to daytime highs for some of us nearing 70 in this 7-day forecast. And we'll find out what happened to the rain coming up after the break.
And welcome back. Preparations are underway for this Sunday's, that is tomorrow's, Golden Globes award show.
Gwen Bumgarner gives us a behind-the-scenes look at Hollywood's biggest party.
Golden Globes host Nikki Glazer helped roll out the red carpet in LA Thursday ahead of Sunday's award show.
The Golden Globes are the party of the year because everybody is here, the drinks are flowing, you're mingling.
Glenn Weiss is the executive producer and director of the Globes, which honors the best in movies, television, and new this year, podcasts.
We're here to capture all of it so that you are a part of a party. You're not just watching an award show.
Leading the film nominations with 9 is the Leonardo DiCaprio action satire, One Battle After Another.
I need to find my daughter.
While on the TV side, HBO's The White Lotus leads with 6.
There's a whole team dedicated to arranging seating for the Globes, though we're told some of these placements could change ahead of Sunday. But one thing organizers wanted to stress to us is that they do not place people based on who they think will win.
We do not know the results. The accounting firm is the only people, and you could be wrong more than half the time. But more importantly, we really want to lay it out appropriately so that everybody is equal.
Jeremy Allen White, Jacob Elordi, and Amanda Seyfried all scored acting nominations in both the TV and film categories, which critics say is becoming more common.
There are no lines anymore, and so honestly, isn't that surprising if people are double dipping when the material is worthy of them?
Seyfried is also slated to present, as are fellow nominees Julia Roberts and George Clooney.
And you can watch the Golden Globe Awards right here on KPIX tomorrow night at 5 o'clock and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Well, at least there are no extreme cold warnings across the Bay Area. We had some of those in the mountains over the last few days. Now, what you're seeing on here, the light blue, this is just a cold weather advisory. It's like the National Weather Service's way of saying, hey, heads up, it's going to be cold tomorrow. Mid-30s specifically, that's the benchmark for something like this. Look at it's like a patchwork, like jigsaw pieces on a puzzle. The Santa Clara Valley's got it. The Tri-Valley has it. So does the Diablo Valley. Napa Valley's got it up here. And so does Sonoma, and then working your way all the way up 101 here through Sonoma County. Okay, what's it going to feel like? Well, it's going to be very similar to what you've done the last few mornings. These numbers are going to be cold, except look at the coast. Bright band of green there showing you relatively warmer temperatures. Almost 50 for the morning low in Santa Cruz. That's nothing. Go over the hill, take 17 over the summit, get down over towards the Santa Clara Valley. It's going to be 39 in Los Gatos, 40 in San Jose. Tri-Valley, there are your numbers in the mid-30s over there, Livermore. Concord, your number will be in the mid-30s. And San Francisco's only going to go down to 42, but it's going to be mid-30s in those North Bay valleys. So now we know there's your cold weather advisory. Now here's your afternoon. No notification necessary. It's just going to be upper 50s and low 60s, but there is a warm-up coming for daytime highs here by the time we get into, by the time we top out with daytime highs by Thursday and Friday of next week. So we're looking ahead a bit. But by the end of the 7-day forecast, some of these places like that 67 in Santa Cruz or this one over here, the 65 for Half Moon Bay, they're going to go up about another 4 degrees. Maybe you're going to be close to 70. We won't all do that. And weirdly enough, the warmest part of the whole Bay Area is going to be the coast, which is the complete opposite of what we normally think of when we are thinking in terms of microclimate and how different it can be from one part of the Bay to the other. Speaking of another microclimate issue, look at that blue strip going down the coastline. And this has everybody, Monterey Bay up past Ocean Beach, all the way up past Point Reyes to Bodega Bay. That is a high surf advisory now, which has been extended. And that's going to go Sunday afternoon through Monday. So there is more wave energy coming our way. It'll be nice. Take a look at the forecast imagery up here for what the swell's going to look like. You can see just enough energy coming back out of the Pacific that the waves are going to pick up. So we'll feel some of that here. And then by the time we get into next week, there could be another issue. I don't want to get too far out in front of the National Weather Service on this one, but there is another long period swell that will probably give us sneaker waves and rip currents by the time we get to the middle of the week. It's just going to be that way at the beach for a while here. The Pacific's pretty active. There's a lot of storms out there. Speaking of which, we take a look out across the Pacific to see those storms. And of course, none of them want anything to do with us. Big center of high pressure right here. Watch the storm track over the next few days. Here's what happened to the rain. This did. So high pressure, this big column of descending air parked right off the coast of California means none of the storms out here can get through it. So they're not really going to have any chance to make their way towards us, which is why we have no rain in the 7-day forecast. And when you look at the 7-day forecast for the coast, our warmest numbers, there are the temperatures going to the upper 60s. That's for you. And we'll just finish this by showing you the other end of the extreme. These are the numbers for the inland microclimate. Actually, our cooler numbers. You'll be in the best you're going to do is probably upper 50s. Okay. Brian, back to you.
All righty, Darren. And when we come back, a story about falling in love all over again and again in the East Bay. That's next. And finally tonight, a touching story about falling in love all over again.
A Berkeley dementia patient has been proposing to his wife each time she visits, as if it's the first time. Laureen Ayub shows us the couple has decided it was finally time to tie the knot again.
It's a love story that renews each day. Linda and Michael are getting married again in Berkeley. First married in 1987, Michael, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 7 years ago, recently proposed to his bride once again.
Well, every time Michael sees me, it's as if, it's the first time. Like, he's so excited. He's like a little boy. He like shakes his hand sometimes and he just lights up. And that's very special.
The wedding, hosted by the Ivy, an assisted living and memory care center where Michael resides, celebrates their love while thoughtfully acknowledging the real-life experiences patients and families face after a dementia diagnosis. According to the Alzheimer's Association, over 7 million Americans live with the disease.
When you first notice this and people are making mistakes, like getting names wrong and not understanding things, it's not to correct them. It doesn't help. The person gets upset. My mother-in-law had the best advice: go with the flow.
And the love has been flowing for 38 years now. As they celebrated with friends and family, Linda says, despite Michael's cognitive challenges, she does her best to look at the bright side.
The good news is that he loves me, and he exudes love always, and that really feels special. I return the love, and I also feel grateful that that's what's left of our relationship. And we just made it work.
Remnants of joy that revive each day.
We always laugh.
Well, that is sweet. And we appreciate you watching tonight. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.
Until then, the news continues streaming on CBS News Bay Area. Have a good night, and we'll see you in a few hours.